Have you ever been playing a game and thought to yourself, I sure have killed a lot of enemies as this character. I wonder how many? Well, you're in the right place, my friend. Welcome back to my video game character kill count series. Today, we're going to be looking at everybody's favorite evil resident destroyer and boulder punching enthusiast, Chris Redfield, from
Resident Evil.
We're hopefully going to find out exactly how many enemies Chris has killed over the last 3 decades of Resident Evil. I've played every game, watched every movie, and counted every single kill. It's a lot, by the way. I'll be providing a full breakdown of the results. The totals, the number of enemy types, what percentage comes from which virus, etc., etc. The rules are the same as before. I can only use canon Resident Evil media, which also means that we'll be using the remakes when applicable, as Capcom has implied that these have replaced their original counterparts in the canon. This will only apply to Resident Evil 1 for the sake of this video, though. Secondly, if Chris is fighting enemies that are off-screen, unless we see confirmation of a kill, it doesn't count. Thirdly, I will not be counting variants or mutations of enemies as separate enemies. Any zombie or Javo that mutates is still just counted as that enemy. Lastly, due to the survival horror nature of some of the games, we will be doing 3 separate counts. One based off of an average playthrough, one splitting kills between Chris and his partners, and one for the total maximum number of enemies that can, in theory, be killed. Also, I'm going to try and not spoil the stories of these games and movies, but we will be talking about every single enemy type, so you've been warned. With that said, let me know down in the comments how many bioweapons you think Chris has destroyed at this point. Give me an estimate. I'm really curious to see what everybody thinks. And also, I am by no means an expert on this series, so if you notice I missed something, feel free to let me know that too. Without further ado, let's get into it. We begin our journey in the Arklay Mountains outside Raccoon City on July 24th, 1998. Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, and the other members of the RPD's Special Tactics and Rescue Service Alpha Team arrive to investigate the disappearance of Bravo Team, which came out here to investigate strange murders. Unfortunately for our heroes, they're attacked by these rotting zombie dogs, and Chris gets his first kill, saving Jill. Chris, Jill, Wesker, and Barry run into the nearby secluded Spencer Mansion for safety, but they have no idea what's waiting for them inside. Now, Resident Evil 1 and its 2002 remake, which we'll be playing for this video, has a really complicated story considering that none of the events depicted in the game are actually the canon version of events. It's actually some amalgamation of both Chris and Jill's scenarios. But for the sake of this video, we're going to make it simple and just be following Chris's scenario just as it is. So what I did for RE1 was I went room to room, making note of every enemy type in each of the major locations in the game. In the Spencer Mansion, I counted a total of 89 enemies, 41 of which were zombies. I was actually a little surprised by this. I thought for sure there were more, but I guess since the game just has so much backtracking, we're just seeing a lot of the same enemies over and over again. There are 10 Cerberus, including the one that comes through the front door if you decide you want to open the front door for some reason. There are 13 crows, 1 wasp, 8 adders, 11 hunters, 3 web spinners, and 2 unique enemy types, one of which was a boss encounter. There's even more evil in the Residence, which is where we find the Neptunes and 2 unique bosses. In the Residence, there's also the Wasp's Nest, which infinitely spawns wasps to attack you until you use the insecticide to destroy it. For this, I'm just going to go with the number of wasps that I personally had, which was 16, and that's including the ones that die in the cutscene. In the game's final location, the Umbrella Lab, we're introduced to one more enemy type, the Chimera, and one final boss. By the end of Resident Evil 1, I had personally killed 81 enemies, but there's a maximum total of 151. Later that year, in December of 1998, Chris's sister Claire is searching for him in Paris, when she's captured and taken to Umbrella's Rockfort Island as a prisoner. Chris sets out to save her, arriving on the island later. Now, here in Code Veronica, Chris is only playable for about half the game, and you can tell from the numbers. This game has the lowest amount of potential kills for Chris than any other game that he appears in, including Resident Evil 7 and 8. On Rockford Island, I counted 22 zombies, 11 hunters, 2 sweepers, which are just poisonous hunters, 1 Bandersnatch, 5 Black Widows, and 2 unique bosses. I do want to point out that a lot of the potential hunters are avoidable, as in order for them to spawn, you have to be scanned by Wesker's seeker drones, which you're probably not going out of your way to do. In the game's second major location, the Arctic base, I counted an additional 35 zombies, 3 hunters, 2 sweepers, 1 moth parasite, and 2 unique bosses. By the end of the game, I had personally killed 57 enemies as Chris, but there's a potential maximum of 86. 7 years later, in Resident Evil Revelations, we meet back up with Chris, who is now a BSAA agent, having dedicated his life to fighting bioterrorism. He and his partner Jessica are tasked with investigating the return of Veltro, a bioterror organization. Now, Jill is the main character of this game, but Chris does get some time to shine. This, however, is the first game we'll be looking at where we're going to have an AI partner stealing our kills. I mean, helping us. So we're going to start our partner split count here, and it will be used for Resident Evil 5 and 6 as well. What's funny about this game in particular, though, is that the AI is terrible and not effective against the enemies at all. I think this is mostly due to the technical limitations of the 3DS, of which this game was originally an exclusive, but still. People like to poke fun at Sheva and RE5, but Sheva's AI is 100 times more competent than the AI in this game. From a canon narrative point of view, it makes sense that there would be an even split between Chris and Jessica, but Jessica's not very helpful in gameplay at all. This especially becomes weird for us, because in the last few episodes of the game, we play as Jill and have Chris as an AI companion. By the time I got to the end of the game, I wasn't even sure if the AI partner could even kill an enemy, so I decided to test it. Come on. You got it, buddy. Come on. Yeah, Chris struggled here. Also, Chris is present during the final boss fight of the game, but again, he's not helpful much at all. In order to damage the boss, you have to hit his weak point, which is almost impossible for Chris to do. Basically, we as Jill do all the work, but from a narrative standpoint, Chris is supposedly helping. I was considering not counting this boss because of that, but when you beat the boss, the first thing the cutscene shows is Chris standing triumphantly over him, not Jill. It's just kind of weird. Regardless though, I have to apply my rules consistently, so I will still be doing the partner split here, just so that it's in line with RE5 and 6. In the sections of the game where Chris was present, I counted 57 oozes, 52 Fenrirs, 1 Wall Blister, 5 Scarmigliones, 2 Skagdeads, and 2 unique bosses. If we split the numbers as evenly as we can between Chris, Jill, and Jessica, then Chris ends up with 59 kills, but there's a potential maximum total of 119. The next year, in RE5's Lost in Nightmares DLC, Chris and Jill investigate another Spencer estate. There's not much to talk about here because there's so few enemies. I counted 6 blobs, which are these big guys that carry around anchors for some reason. There are also 5 zombies. I guess they're zombies? They're just these corpses that grab you if you walk over them. They're more of an environmental hazard than anything else, but you can kill them. I'm not even going to split the count for Chris and Jill because there are so few enemies here and they both work together to kill the blobs anyway, so our total for Lost in Nightmares is going to be 11 kills. In Resident Evil 5's base game though, it's a much different story. In Kajuju, the first major location in the game, Chris and his new partner Sheva have already encountered 351 enemies, 315 of which were Majini. In the marshlands, we fight 186 enemies. In the ruins, there's another 238, and in the Tricell ship, there's another 84. There are 19 different enemy types, 6 of which are unique bosses. Now, there are various encounters in this game where the enemies continually spawn, so the final number could vary a bit, but this is what I ended up with. I counted a maximum total of 865 enemies. But when the enemy types are split evenly between Chris and Sheva, the total is about 444. Resident Evil 6 is much the same. Again, Chris is accompanied by a new partner character, Pierce. Among all the chapters that take place in Waiip, China, I counted 397 enemies. Just in Chapter 1 alone, Chris and Pierce had killed 125 Java. In Adonia, I counted 128 enemies, and in the underwater facility there was another 59. Same as with RE5, there are some encounters where enemies infinitely spawn or can vary based on what happens, like this encounter where the Javo fighters can summon more Napods if you don't stop them from using these levers. If we split the numbers between Chris and Pierce, Chris ends up with 296 kills, but there's a maximum total of 584, split between 6 enemy types and 2 unique bosses. Now we finally get to look at some of the CGI movies, starting with Resident Evil Vendetta. In this film, Chris teams up with Leon and Rebecca to fight a bioterrorist using the new A virus. Like I said in my Leon video, there's a scene towards the end of this film where Chris and Leon fight probably 100 zombies in a hallway, in what is a truly gloriously ridiculous fight scene. Speaking of ridiculous though, there's also this duel scene between Chris and the film's antagonist, which is probably the dumbest fight scene I've ever seen. The gun fu is crazy in this film. I love it. Some of the fighting is off screen, so I can't count that, but Chris kills at least 50 zombies over the course of the movie. For the first time, Chris also kills 3 humans in this film, along with 1 unique enemy type. In Vendetta's sequel film, Death Island, all the legacy RE protagonists team up to investigate strange virus-related occurrences centering around Alcatraz. This is a fun little movie, and as far as I'm aware, it's the only time all the legacy protagonists have been on screen together. It's like Resident Evil's version of the Avengers. Jill, however, is very much the main character here, and Chris, Leon, Claire, and Rebecca are all mostly supporting cast. I counted only 8 zombie kills for Chris in this film. Now, we finally got to the modern age of RE with Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Now, Chris is obviously not the protagonist here, that's Ethan, but Chris is playable in the Not a Hero DLC, which depicts the events directly after the base game's ending. Chris pursues Lucas Baker, who throws a lot of molded BOWs at him. Just in this short DLC, I counted 42 molded, 10 crawlers, 2 fat molded, 11 fumers, 5 exploders, 16 little crawlers, and 2 unique boss encounters. That gives Not a Hero a maximum total of 88 kills for Chris. In the next game, Resident Evil Village, Ethan is still the protagonist, but Chris is present for the events of the game and is temporarily playable. During Chris's section, I counted 90 Lycans, 2 Vorkalax, and 1 Urias. I'm also going to count the Mutamycete as a kill for both Chris and Ethan, as he plants the explosives on it, which Ethan later detonates. There's this one part where Lycans will infinitely spawn in waves of 8 until you hit the Mutamycete with an aerial strike, so again, the number could vary depending on who's playing. Our maximum total for Resident Evil Village is 94 kills. And that brings us to the end of our count. That's a lot. So in total, among all of Chris Redfield's appearances throughout the series, I counted an average total. Keep in mind this is like me just playing the games normally, like you would on a first playthrough. And for that, I counted a total of 1,949, but with a whopping maximum total of 2,049. If we split the kills between Chris and his partners in the games where he has them, Chris only ends up with a total of 1,278. If we combine the normal survival horror count with the partner split, then Chris only ends up with 1,180 kills, almost half of his maximum. If you guessed that Chris's maximum would be higher than Leon's, then congrats, you were correct. Alright, now for the maximum number of kills for every enemy type. $700 Magini, 550 Javo, 171 zombies, 90 lichens, 57 oozes, 52 Fenrirs, 52 Buikichwas, 42 molded, 29 hunters, 27 ajuls, 25 lickers, 17 wasps, 16 adders, 16 napods, 16 little crawlers, 14 kippapeos, 13 crows, 12 cerberi, 12 chimeras, 11 big men, yeah they're called big men, 11 fumers, 10 crawlers, 7 web spinners, 6 blobs, 6 rascalopanges, 5 black widows, 5 scarmigliones, 5 crocodiles, 5 reapers, 5 strelacs, 5 exploders, 4 sweepers, 4 chainsaw Magini, 3 Neptunes, 3 giant Magini, 3 Gatling gun Magini, 3 Nesdos, 3 humans, 2 Skagdeads, 2 Ouroboros, 2 Papakaramus, 2 Ogremen, 2 Fat Molded, 2 Varkalax, 1 Yawn, 1 Monster Plant, 1 Plant 42, 1 Black Tiger, 1 Tyrant, 1 Gulpworm, 1 Bandersnatch, 1 Albinoid, 1 Moth Parasite, 1 Giant Black Widow, 1 Alexia Ashford, 1 Wall Blister, 1 Malakota, 1 Ultimate Abyss, 1 Executioner, 1 Netsu, 1 Ricardo Irving, 1 U8, 1 Uraburo Sahiri, 1 Albert Wesker, 1 Eluzija, 1 Chaos, 1 Glen Arias, 1 Mama Mold, 1 Lucas Baker, 1 Urias, and 1 Mutamycete. Oh, man. So now that you have the totals, here are some interesting statistics. These are Chris's top 5 most killed enemy types. Number 1 is Magini with 700 kills, which makes up 34.1% of all of his kills in total. At number 2 we have the Javo with 550 kills, making up 26.8%. Then Zombies at 3rd place with 171 kills, which makes up 8.3%. Lichens at 4th place with 90 kills, which makes up 4.4%. And Oozes at 5th place with 57 kills, which makes up 2.8%. With regards to the individual entries, Resident Evil 5 has by far the most kills, making up 42.3% of all of Chris Redfield's kills in the series. Resident Evil 6 makes up 28.5%, Resident Evil 1 is 7.4%, Revelations 5.8%, Village 4.5%, Resident Evil 7 4.3%, Code Veronica 4.2%, Vendetta 2.6%, and Death Island 0.4%. When it comes to the different viruses, 40.4% of all of Chris Redfield's kills are from Las Plagas. Then we have C-Virus with 28.5%, T-Virus 13.5%, Mold 8.8%, T-Abyss 5.8%, A-Virus 2.5%, Ouroboros 0.2%, and T-Veronica with 0.1%. And there you go. Now you know way more than you needed to about how many monsters Chris Redfield has killed over the last 3 decades. This took a very long time and a lot of work to gather all this data, so I'd greatly appreciate a like and a sub if you found this video fun or interesting. Now, I have to be honest, I really want to figure out these numbers for the other RE protagonists now. I feel like I have to finish it out, you know? If this video does well, we'll probably try to make a few more of these. Maybe even expand to other video game characters. Maybe. I mean, I already have a ton of footage of the Resident Evil games since I've gone through and recorded all of them. So maybe expect a chill Valentine video? Maybe? Probably. For now, I just want to say I appreciate you watching to the end. You're the best. Take care.